Ni gaskiya al'amari ya faru jiya, shekaran jiya around 6:20. Wasu sun sha ruwa, wasu ba su sha ba. Mun shiga masallaci, wasu sun idan raka ɗaya raka biyu sai muka ji harbe-harbe ko ta ina sun kewaye garin nan. Wallahi tallahi wutan da ya shiga cikin gari ba mu tsammani cewa har za mu fita ba. Amma din saboda ikon Allah a duk inda ba yake ne taimakonsa, wallahi haka nan muka zo jama'anmu muka fasa muka fita muka kwana a jeji. Yanzu abin da nake gaya muka na kamar yadda shi youth na yayi bayani akan cewa jama'a mu yanzu birci wanda yake kasa wanda ka kashe su.
Imagine a quiet, peaceful evening in a tightly knitted Nigerian community located right in the heart of Gwoza Local Government Area in Borno State. It is exactly 6:20 p.m. Across the village of Ngoshe, the air is thick with the anticipation of rest. For many families, this is a sacred moment. They have just finished breaking their fast, and the first sips of water and bites of food are bringing a sense of relief and gratitude after a very long day of sacrifice. Others are still in their kitchens, leaning over stoves and preparing evening meals, the steam rising from the pots while they call out to children to wash up and get ready for dinner. This serene, familiar picture of domestic peace was violently shattered in an instant when heavily armed invaders descended upon the village from multiple directions. They did not come under the bright, exposing light of morning when the community was alert, active, and able to see threats from a distance. Instead, they chose the precise moment of dusk, strategically using the fading light and the natural distraction of the evening meal to ensure there was absolutely no room for escape. The horrifying headline we're looking at today states that terrorists invaded this specific community in Gwoza, timing their assault for the exact minute families were gathered in their homes, believing they were safe for the night. They overpowered the local security forces with a ruthless military-like efficiency, turning a time of prayer and nourishment into a scene of absolute carnage and confusion. Before we go any further into the heartbreaking details of how this tragedy unfolded and the sheer scale of the displacement, I must issue a very strong and important disclaimer. The video footage and images we are about to display on screen contain scenes that are incredibly distressing, sensitive, and graphic in nature. YouTube guidelines permit us to share the news to keep you informed about these realities, but we must warn you first. If you are sensitive to such visual realities, please look away or cover your phone screen, because the reality of what happened in this Borno community is truly a living nightmare that is difficult to process. The attackers swarmed the town in overwhelming numbers, riding on motorcycles and carrying advanced weapons that immediately outmatched the brave local security personnel and volunteers who tried their absolute best to defend their families. These local defenders, many of whom are fathers and brothers from the village, fought with everything they had, but they were simply outgunned and outmaneuvered by the sheer force of the invaders. Once the resistance was broken, the attackers moved swiftly from house to house, resulting in a tragic loss of life that has left the entire region in deep mourning. As the evening progressed and darkness fully took hold of Gwoza, the horror only deepened. The attackers gathered the frightened residents in the center of the community, forcibly separating husbands from wives and parents from their screaming children, while their evening meals sat cold and untouched on their tables. Ultimately, they forced over 300 people, primarily vulnerable women and young children, to march away into the dark, unknown depths of the Mandara Mountains. Hearing the accounts of the survivors who managed to escape into the bushes paints a picture of immense helplessness. According to recent reports from this year of 2026, witnesses described how the invaders surrounded the community from 3 different angles at once, ensuring that anyone who tried to run would run directly into another group of armed men waiting in the shadows. They demanded money, aggressively collected mobile phones to cut off all communication with the outside world, and took whatever valuables they could find before herding their captives into the bush like cattle. One survivor recounted the sheer terror of watching his family being marched away while he hid in his own compound, paralyzed by the sight of his loved ones disappearing into the night, unable to do anything to stop the tide of violence. The physical and emotional pain on these families left behind in Gwoza Local Government Area is simply impossible to measure. They are sitting in empty, silent homes tonight, jumping at every sound and waiting for a phone call that might bring a ransom demand they can never hope to afford. This incident is tragically part of a broader, deeply concerning security situation across Nigeria in 2026. Reports indicate that this specific raid was likely a retaliation move by militants after the military successfully eliminated several of their top commanders earlier this week. It shows a terrifying pattern of ghost fighters who strike rural targets and vanish before help can arrive. If you find this report helpful and want to stay updated on the rescue efforts, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel right now. Your subscription helps us reach more people and ensures that the plight of these communities stays in the public eye. The gravity of this situation in Gwoza cannot be overstated, as the kidnapped women and children are now facing the harsh elements of the mountains without food, adequate clothing, or shelter. The community of Ngoshe is essentially a ghost town, with those not taken fleeing to displacement camps in search of his safety that feels increasingly fragile. There is a deep sense of betrayal among the survivors who feel that despite the warnings, the response was not fast enough to save their children. In 2026, the sophistication of these raids has increased, with attackers using drones for surveillance before they strike at vulnerable times like 6:20 p.m. As we look at how this community is trying to survive and what the authorities are doing to rescue these 300 souls, remember that every like and every share helps pressure the powers that be to take decisive action. Hitting that subscribe button ensures that these stories are not forgotten by the system and that the names of the missing are kept in our prayers and our headlines. We will keep tracking every single update regarding the rescue missions, the negotiations, and the well-being of the affected families in Gwoza. The voices of these kidnapped women and children must remain loud, and we will do our part to make sure the world hears them. The trauma of that 6:20 p.m. invasion will last a lifetime, but through our collective awareness, we can hope for a safe return. Thank you for staying with us through this detailed and important report, and please don't forget to subscribe to stay informed.